The Backdoor GAA Podcast for 2023 is now brought to you by Steede Motor Group. For your personalised vehicle shopping experience, visit steedemotorgroup.ie. We are now delighted to announce our second sponsor of the podcast. Harper Finlay are a professional service recruitment company operating nationwide and are dedicated to helping people find their dream job.
So delighted now to be joined by former Galway senior hurler Tony Og Regan, just to look back on his intercounty career, look at the work he does in sports psychology as well. Tony, first of all, thanks very much for coming on. If we get straight into about your intercounty career, you overcame a lot of obstacles, you could say, to play with Galway and to play for so long. Given that maybe time has passed now, how do you reflect on that period?
Listen, Paul, it was a great period in my life, I suppose, from 13, 14 years of age, starting off with the Galway academies and having a really positive experience with the likes of Jerry Spellman, Damien Coleman, Damien Curley, Pat Monaghan, and graduating then into the minor setup under John Hardiman and his management team. And, thankfully with a bit of success in those early years in terms of reaching Tony Forrestal finals and under 16 All-Ireland finals. And they definitely helped you get prepared for, the bigger occasions like All-Ireland minor semi-finals and finals, which during my younger days were played. There was quite a bit of pressure and expectation in terms of maybe 40 or 50,000 at some of the semi-finals, and then anything up to 80,000 at some of the minor finals as well, along with the seniors. So those early experiences, I suppose, were a help in terms of playing in front of smaller crowds, but also getting used to playing in those venues and getting used to that experience of putting on the Galway jersey in those sorts of atmospheres.
Did you always believe from a young age that you were going to play senior hurling for Galway?
I definitely had it as a dream. I think my dad would have been heavily involved in the college and NUIG, and I can remember going up training at 11, 12 years of age with the Fitzgibbon squad and hooking out around with the likes of James O'Connor and Christy O'Connor and those lads who would have went on to win All-Irelands with Clare in 95 and 97. There was a good number of Galway lads there, obviously, as well, the likes of Francis Ford and Francis O'Connor. And you just kind of got a sense of what it maybe took to play at a top level, and what were some of the skills and the kind of attitudes that you needed to get to that level. And thankfully I broke into the Galway under 14 squad, and it kind of gave you some sort of a pathway and idea that, listen, I can make it under 14 level, surely I can push on and make it under 16 level. And when that happens, then it gives you a renewed belief then that you can potentially make a minor squad, and you see Galway minor teams winning All Irelands, and you say, I'm not far off that mark. So if I can break into that squad, it's in those kind of stages. And then you break into a minor squad, you win All Ireland, and the next thing your expectation rises another little bit, and you're looking to get into an under 21 and senior squad. And that's where you probably kind of take it in those little stages and have those kind of big wins and important wins for you at that time. On the scale of a hurling career, making under 14 team, it might feel very big when you're 13 or 14, but when you get to adulthood, you kind of recognize it was just a small stepping stone. And whether you make it at 13 or 14 hasn't a big burden in terms of what lads progress to senior. So it's just about trying to continue to commit to the game and trying to improve at the game and get better at the game, and throw yourself into as many teams as possible in terms of your schools and your colleges and your club, and try to develop through matches and different coaches you get experience to and exposed to.
Would you find it hard initially when you break on to the panel? It's almost like your dream is becoming a reality, that you're just there, you've cemented your position. Is it hard at stages not to feel so satisfied about yourself and just kind of stay grounded?
I think the first couple of weeks and months are probably challenging enough in terms of, you're used to watching Ollie Canning, Kevin Broderick, Eugene Cloonan on television, and now all of a sudden you're sitting across them in the dressing room, and they're maybe demanding a pass off you or demanding you to put in a tackle, and you're nearly kind of scratching yourself to say, how has this happened so quickly, but quickly when you get into training with those lads and you get playing matches with them, you become more comfortable in the environment. And generally the senior lads that I was exposed to in Galway were very welcoming and integrated younger lads into the panel really well, and tried to show them the way in terms of what to be eating, what to be doing in the gym. For my first couple of years, I wasn't driving, so I would have got lifts to training with Kevin Broderick and Ollie Canning, and they were current All-Stars at the time and had played in All-Ireland senior finals, and you watched them winning minor under 21 on the way up, and it was just great to get their kind of mindset and outlook on the thing, and how they prepared for matches and training sessions and their level of professionalism. And there was also great crack with the lads and great enjoyment listening to their stories and what they're at in life, and the off-field stuff that they enjoyed with the team as well. So I think those first couple of months is just really trying to bed in and keep your head down and working hard, and proving to the group that you're good enough to be there, and proving to the group that you can challenge for a position and compete for a position, as well as proving it to management. So you're just trying to soak up as much as the information that you're given, and try and soak up the attitude and behaviours and how the senior lads carry themselves. You probably soak up a lot of that and try to carry yourself in a similar vein. And it's not to say that during the course of a season, or a course of a campaign, or a course of a career, that you don't go through dips of motivation, dips in lacking confidence, dips in not knowing where you stand within the group. And that's the challenges that players will come across and have to manage to deal with, and try and get the best out of themselves at different times.
Just 2008, Tony, was obviously a really big year for you. For the podcast, I was reading an article you did with RT, but there was a lot of change there in your life, and you ultimately went in then to start your own career and build your own business. But at that time, when you're playing hurling at such a high level, when you look back at that now, are you just delighted you made that decision?
I suppose at the time you're probably going through so many different emotions. I think the period of your life there that you're maybe asking me about is, I was on the Galway senior panel for probably 4 or 5 years at that stage, and I got dropped off it a couple of years after.
How did that feel?
Listen, you're an absolute sadness and disappointment over it, and there's probably a shock and a denial over what's happened, and you probably don't believe it's true for the first couple of weeks, and you probably hope that it's only a matter of time that you'll be called back in, and all those kind of things are going through your head. Will you ever make it back onto the panel? Will you ever play for Galway again? And I was also probably beginning to wind down a job that I'd done for the last 4 or 5 years in terms of accountancy, and I had kind of failed my exams, and it was probably a lot of uncertainty there as well in terms of, should I even continue on, finish out my exams and get qualified in it? Is it a career that I want to be in? And I'd moved out of home during the previous year or two as well, and to be moving back home again was another adjustment and transition. So there was a lot going on in terms of being unemployed, maybe losing your job, and the main thing at that point in my life really was hurling and playing for Galway, and to have that taken away as well at that period was very upsetting and very disappointing, and definitely parts of me was really in low mood over it, and searching for what to do next, and a lot of uncertainty of what the future held in terms of my Galway career. So there was a lot of it outside my control and outside of my hands in terms of being selected again, and that probably caused a lot of anxiety as well. But over time you start to maybe fortunate enough to have enough support around me that you start to look ahead and say, right, well, I'm not in charge of selection, I'm not in charge of picking the team, and I never was, but what are the things I can do? I'm only 24, 25 years of age. I've proven I can play at that level. So what are the things that I can do to get back the form that I previously had? Maybe get fitter, stronger, and mentally sharper, and just upskill, I suppose, a couple of different areas of my game that if I do get into position to get back into good form with my club, it could lead to a recall with a change of management or a change of opinion by the current management kind of thing. And, that's what I kind of focused in on and put my energy on, and as well as kind of passing my exams. And, that kind of gave me the focus for the next 6-7 months to go after that.
To get back in there, I presume during that period, were you able to use it as motivation, the doubt that management maybe thought you shouldn't be there?
I wouldn't have tapped into that every day, Paul. I don't think it's a useful emotion to be carrying, maybe, anger and frustration and doubt to drive your ambitions, so I probably tried to, I was in with the Galway intermediate team at the time, which was probably, looked on as probably, a step down and all that, but at least I was in training with a Galway team 2 or 3 times a week. I was playing challenge matches against senior club players and, county intermediate sides and county under 21 sides, and there was really good standards. You had the best intermediate players, you had some of the best senior players in there as well that could register for it, and we had a good environment at that time, and it was a step up on club intermediate level. So it helped me to keep a level of sharpness in terms of my hurling, and it gave me a focus. You had a session every second night, and you had a match every weekend during the summer, and it just kept you ticking over in terms of that short-term focus, but also you're improving aspects of your game and you were challenging yourself. And probably word was getting out that it was probably going quite well in most of those matches against senior players, and it just kept me in the shop window per se.
And to get back in there, it was obviously just massive for you, but I presume one of those most enjoyable years has to be 2012, where you line out centre back. He ultimately had one of the all-time classics with Kilkenny. Then Kilkenny obviously get the better of you quite heavily in the replay, but is that one of the best years of hurling you really enjoyed?
I think going back after 2008 and getting back on the squad in the winter 09, and probably coming into the squad 3rd or 4th in position for centre back, and John McIntyre at the time was manager, and he was very upfront around that, and I had to work my way through the squad, and thankfully he gave me a starting jersey in the Walsh Cup in the first game, and he was a man true to his word. If you held the jersey and you showed your form, he continued to pick you, and I ended up playing every match that year practically, I'd say, in league and championship, and we were very unfortunate just to lose to Tip in a quarter-final by a point, but I felt myself that I probably silenced the critic in my own head in terms of, could I do it at that level, and could I be consistent at that level at number 6, and got nominated for an All-Star at the end of that year, and John McIntyre asked me to be vice captain as well in the squad at the end of the year. So 2010 was a real fulfilling year from that point of view, after not being on a panel 12 months previously, to having that level of success in 12 months. It just shows what can be done when you get a couple of breaks and you work hard and you continue to back yourself. And
is that the key, do you feel, for someone who does get dropped?
Yeah, you have to have, I suppose, an ingrained belief in yourself that you are good enough, and you have to ignore, I think, outside opinions and outside noise. That you have to be able to recognize what you bring to it in terms of your attitude, your skill set, your determination, your focus, things that maybe people can't measure or maybe don't see that much, but it's kind of inherently in you, and it shows up when you need it, and I think they're really, really important things that you can lean on when maybe things aren't going well for you, form wise at different times, or you're out of favour with selection, or you're coming back from an injury, that you have that belief in yourself that you are capable and you are competent, and you can play at a level that is in you, and I think that voice in your head is the most important one. What you tell yourself around your own capability, what you tell yourself around the challenge, and it's something we can all develop and work on in terms of how we speak to ourselves in those moments.
Just with that 2012 period, that game against Kilkenny, you did find yourself on Henry Shefflin at periods during that game, but is there still a small bit of regret that you ultimately didn't finish with an All-Ireland?
Listen, I think, when you set out for the senior panel of Galway's ability and the hurlers that we have, that you would have really have liked to have won an All-Ireland. I think we probably put ourselves in position in, 3 All-Ireland finals, 2 of them definitely to win them, I thought, in 2005 and in 2012, the first day. And, the long and short of it is we weren't good enough. We didn't maybe convert enough chances, or we didn't, concede as little scores as we needed to get over the line. And, I think through no fault of anyone at the time, we were working as hard as we could. We were prepared as we could, and, we just fell short. And, there's plenty of players and teams that have fell short in those scenarios before. And it is what it is. And, it would have been lovely to have won one, absolutely. I think when you look at 2017 and, the effect it had on not only the players, but also the whole county and all the club system and everything, it just gave it such a massive boost. And, I think hurling and camogie and everything have been just, maybe riding off that the last 5 or 6 years in terms of that success, both at camogie level and hurling level. And, it's very, very important for a county like Galway to be, trying to take down an All-Ireland at least every decade anyway, and keeping to inspire the younger generation.
Do you miss Intercounty?
Listen, I can't say I miss the whole training and that aspect of it. I think it's such a huge commitment level now that life move on, and you've other priorities and other things become more important to you. I definitely think it's a phase in your life when it's very, very important to you, and it's the most important thing, and it probably needs to be to try and get as good at it as you can. But a couple of years out of it, then you kind of say, geez, it's nice to be able to put more time back into your family. It's nice to be able to put more time back into your club. It's nice to have the freedom to travel and go to different events, whether it's christenings or weddings or holidays and all that aspect of it. So, it definitely served its purpose, and my time is up. So I'm glad to have other things to do and have other focuses.
With that, like talking about being involved in Intercounty, it's not like you haven't been involved really in Intercounty since, because you've been involved with various teams as a sports psychologist. Just with sports psychology now, it seems to be, since we've seen the Limerick success, the work that's been done there, the sports psychology with intercounty teams now is it's almost becoming a buzzword. It's almost every team now has one in, and all the teams want to do all these extra bits. But has it surprised you how much particularly it's developed in the last decade across even intercounty now and club teams?
Not really, and I think it can go a lot more in terms of, like, it's a sports science, no more than strength and conditioning is, more than video analysis is, no more than the medical side of it is. And it's something that can add huge value to a setup in terms of how we bring teams together, in terms of that connection and that support and that identity and that team development and team ethos. And it can also be really important in terms of mentally helping players prepare for the pressure that they're going to experience in the likes of an All-Ireland final and semi-final. And it can also be really important in terms of the health and well-being of players on and off the field, in terms of, meeting those demands that they have. Like, they're all, busy professionals as well. They all have lives outside of their career in terms of their family and their relationships. They all have mental health and physical health like any normal human being as well. So, they all need support at different times during the season, during a career where, they might be struggling with different aspects of life, and they might need that support, as well as, it's not just about being struggling as well. It's players that are, have been at a good level for 3 or 4 or 5 years. How do you get more out of them in terms of how do they advance their level of performance, that they're, moving to, really consistent high performers every time they put on the jersey, and they're, producing consistently excellent performances. And, that's where sports psychology can help too, in terms of maximizing people's preparation, maximizing their skills and their strengths, and maximizing the performance on and off the field as well. So I can absolutely see why there's a need and necessity for it. It's a particular skill set that, I found very valuable as a player, in terms of, getting close to my maximum and consistent level most days I went out. And I can see, just huge benefits in the teams that have really adapted to it and got to that consistent level of excellence in terms of your Limericks and your Dublin footballs and your All Blacks and all those teams you think of who have had a sustained success over, decades.
And you're almost nearly serving as maybe somewhat of a therapist to players, where it's just about sitting down, having that chat. If stuff's going on in their life, if they're having challenges in careers, relationships, or even just the pressure of the competitive nature.
Yeah, listen, every player will have different needs. Some players might be struggling with an off-field thing, whether it's the stress in exams or stress of relationships or, stress of not playing well or not being selected at the moment. And it's just to give them a space to kind of talk about that, make sense of it, process, I suppose, their feelings around it, and help them with a way forward where they can focus on, what's the things that are in their control and what can they do to, move forward and have a more positive approach or a positive outlook to achieving success again. And, for players then that are at a really good level and maybe their off field is going particularly well, their on field is going particularly well, it's probably challenging them in a different way to, go to a new level in terms of their consistency and looking at ways they can, get better in terms of their preparation, look at ways they can get better in terms of their on-field leadership or their communication or their decision making. And it's working with everyone in the team in terms of that to try and get the best out of each individual and taking it on that kind of case by case basis in terms of what the need is and what's the thing that would help that player the most in terms of improving or taking a distraction out of his life or an interference out of his life that's impacting his performance.
And how often do you get, you're with Offaly now, if I'm not wrong?
No, not with Offaly this season. I suppose typically if you're with a group, Paul, you would work with players one-to-one. Some players like a one-to-one maybe every fortnight. Some players might be every 4 or 5 weeks.
Is this outside the collective you do this work now, or with players, or would it be very much when you show up to training or before or after?
When you're having a one-to-one call with a player, you do it outside the training session because they've enough on the training night in terms of, players could be there at 6 o'clock for a 7 o'clock session and they could be doing their, prehab and activation work. They could be meeting with their coaches. There could be meeting before the session. They're on the field for maybe 90 minutes and then there's food and recovery after that. So, your one-to-one sessions will be doing over likes of a Zoom or a phone call or a cup of coffee. And that might be 60 to 90 minutes. And then from a group perspective, you try to do a workshop every 4 to 6 weeks and they'll be around different themes, whether it's, developing the team identity, whether it's developing your, on-field processes, whether it's concentration or it's confidence or decision making or different aspects like that. And, you're trying to work through the season and the season plan around that.
And I take it you very much enjoy this work, Tony.
Listen, it's been a whole new lease of life for me. I suppose I worked as an accountant for 10 years and although there was aspects of the job I enjoyed, it was probably not something I was massively passionate about. And, whereas with the job I'm doing now, you can see your impact on players and teams fairly directly and, you get feedback fairly quick in terms of what's working and not working. And, it's great to be a part of big occasions, whether it's, county finals, club finals, Munster finals, All-Ireland finals at senior or club level. It's great to be taking part in, an athlete's journey in terms of their off-field and helping them with maybe improving their career, improving their relationships or working with them in terms of their health and well-being at different times as well and seeing improvements there. And it's just a field I'm hugely interested in and love reading up on and love researching and love trying to, add benefit wherever I go in terms of the individual or the teams or the organizations.
You're very much a man who, even just looking at it now, is still hurling away for Rahun as far as I know. You're chairman of the club there as well. Like it's definitely times I'd say that times are busy now for you.
Yeah, but listen, they're all things and aspects that I really love and passionate about, Paul. So it doesn't feel like work or anything I need to cut back a small bit from all those involvements, but it's just something like I couldn't speak enough in terms of what the club has done for me since I was a young lad, in terms of the opportunities it's given and what the GAA has given me in terms of opportunities as well. So, it's always really nice to give back in terms of particularly your own community, and try and help the next generation be the best they can be and give them the best opportunities and environment for that to happen. So, been chairperson of the club and, still playing, I still get a huge buzz out of training, get a huge buzz out of competing in matches, huge buzz out of, trying to be successful. And, it's a great kind of detachment for me from, the work then or different aspects of life, and you're to just go out and play, and that's kind of my thing to enjoy as well, like, so there are definitely certain things I really enjoy doing, and that's why I'm doing them, I suppose.
Just with that, Rahoon this year, obviously, in Salthill, there was a bit of a debate there for a while. I'm not sure how it's progressed since. Salthill were obviously looking, just with the growth of the club and the growth of their numbers, to go out and build a new GAA facilities out near Rahoon, but that could obviously affect Rahoon's playing members and everything. That's obviously been a challenge as chairman, but trying to see what happens there.
Yeah, we're still, I suppose, a bit unknown in terms of whether the application will be lodged. St. Michael's as well were quite disappointed in terms of us moving into their catchment area, and Barna Gaelic Football Club as well would have been affected by it as well. So, all three clubs would be of the agreement that, within the spirit of the GAA, absolutely we need more facilities in this city, but you have to be respectful of catchment area as well, and parishes, and there is other areas and other spaces that I'm aware of that maybe Salthill could use within their own catchment area and build the facilities they need. So
is that what you'd like to see happen there?
Yeah, absolutely, and I think we've come out on record saying that, and so have St. Michael's and Barna as well. So hopefully they can find a suitable location for that facility, and it would really help their club, I'm sure.
Tony, it's been a really enjoyable chat. Thanks very much for coming on.
Thank you, Paul.
The Backdoor GAA Podcast for 2023 is now brought to you by Steede Motor Group. For your personalised vehicle shopping experience, visit steedemotorgroup.ie. We are now delighted to announce our second sponsor of the podcast. Harper Finlay are a professional service recruitment company operating nationwide and are dedicated to helping people find their dream job.